أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our dear viewers, and welcome to another episode on the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. On today's episode, like the previous one, we will continue our discussion on slavery, and that is the teaching of the Holy Quran and the practice of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his Sahabas with regards to slavery and the treatment of slavery as well. To help me and you understand this topic well, I have in the studio on my immediate right, Brother Said Sambaso, and on his right we have Ustaz Almami Barajo. Gentlemen, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. Brother Said Sambaso, we have talked about how the Prophet sallallahu demanded from his companions by his words and his practice to treat slaves like they treat themselves, and to feed them the food that they eat and clothe them with the clothes that the masters as well wear. But we have not reached a certain point where we will see that, being in the part of the life of the slaves themselves. What we will talk about today is these slaves who were freed, were they just let gone just like that and they were not integrated in the society, or were they as well integrated in the society and they became part and parcel of the day-to-day activities that were happening in the Muslim society?
Jazakumullah, thank you very much for having me once again. I think the most important thing about freeing the slave is not just to free them and let them be a child. So that will go to be like they are not freed. If they are freed and left on one particular area, those people who free them on one particular area, that doesn't still solve the problem. So this is why the Holy
that would have even made life very difficult for them,
because they
knew nobody else
and they possessed nothing
exactly
at that time. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ always tried to make sure that he gave the exact solution and the most beneficial solution, and that was to integrate these people with the society, for them also to feel free and to feel like they are respected, not to feel like inferior. So this is why through his practices you can able to see that the Holy Prophet has done a lot towards this slave, not only to free them but also to help them after being free through his instruction. We can see that the Holy Prophet advised his companion, if you free a slave, do not leave the individual to go free without giving the individual anything, or just because of you are commanded to leave them, to free them, that is the reason you free them. But when you free them also, you should have the respect towards them and you could also assist them. To that extent, he said you should call each other Maula, which is friend or a helper. So that is, whenever the need arises from the master's side, the freed slave should dare to be assisting the individual. That is the master. And also, if the slave also, the free slave also have any need that that the previous master or the former master can able to assist, that is the right that he owe to this free slave, that is, he have to help him. So in that case, it become Maula and it become friend. So they should able to assist each other. There should be a mutualistic relationship between the free slave and the master, so that they can feel honored in the society. And not only that, it went to the extent that he even said that the free slave can even able to inherit the master if on the master who passed away was not having any heir to inherit him. The free slave can inherit that master, and that is vice versa also. That is, the master also can inherit the free slave if there is nobody to inherit the free slave. So you see how the mutualistic relationship it was, and how strong that friendship and relationship was between a free slave and a master. And this is why Mu'minin Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha narrated one hadith. She said the Holy Prophet said that the Holy Prophet will state, if a slave, free slave, die without heirs, his wealth shall be inherited by his previous master. And Ibn Abbas also related the same thing. He said on one occasion a person died without heirs, that is, the person did not have somebody to inherit. He said the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam granted his inheritance to his freed slave. So that shows that these people are now part of the society, and they are honored, and that was the standard of the teaching of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, but for this inheritance, it doesn't look like maybe to financial support or economic system, but rather all this was done just to strengthen the relationship between a master and his freed slave, so that everybody feel free, because the Holy Quran told us, al-Muslim, innamal mu'minu ikhwatun, all believers are they are relative, and their relationship is the same. And also the Holy Prophet has to emphasize this, al-Muslim akhul Muslim. He say a Muslim, his relative, is a Muslim like of him. There is nothing like
black or white
or whether you are a free slave
live.
or anything.
Exactly.
That is your brother.
So, Ustaz Salman Balajo, we see that even when the Prophet ﷺ passed away, many years after that, you will see that this practice still continued. People were still freeing slaves, and they were still giving them that respect that they should be given in the society. So much so that there is an incident that is narrated about Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu and some other freed slaves who came to visit him, and there were these, Meccan chiefs who also wanted to see him, but Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu called the freed slaves first to come and see him. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen again. When this incident happened, but before that, sorry to put this one across again, the freeing or like the inheritance between the free slave and the previous master, like he mentioned clearly. But to add to that, the Holy Prophet ﷺ is in he forbade people, he forbade people not to put to sale the properties of the deceased person, be it a free slave or the master, rather to give it to the one who is left behind. Usually you are not allowed in Islam, if your free slave is there staying with you and someone happen to pass away, his property will not be sold out or given as a sadaqah or gift. The one who is left behind, that is your, say, being a slave or a master, one of them, either one of them or either of them should be having that entire entitlement.
Should be the inheritor.
Yes, he should
property.
inherit that property. You should not sell it out. Come to your how do you call it, your point straight away. And in this occasion, like when in history, in the time of Hadrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when Hadrat Bilal, him and some of the former slaves, but now they are now rebelated, they are no more a slave. But still, they came to seek counsel from Hadrat Umar once. Then there also happened to be some other chieftaincies, former chieftaincies of Makkah. They were also there to see
the like of Abu Sufyan.
Hazrat Abu Sufyan and then Hazrat Suhail and others in the South. So as they were there seeking the counsel of Hazrat Umar, but it so happened that when Hazrat Umar noticed the presence of Bilal and Co, he instead called them before Hazrat, who later on called Hazrat Abu Sufyan. Then they were later called. Abu Sufyan passed this comment that what happened, why this sudden change or this action, like are we more inferior than these people now? What is happening? They are calling these people before us. So Suhail was there with him, who reminded him that these people, first of all, they listen to the call of Allah first before you. Now, if they are given this chance, it is their entitlement. There is nothing to worry about that one. So, but still, because that sentiment is still in them. It was a gradual process, gradually, and it was later on diminished gradually. Again, in another instant also, the same Hadrat Bilal and Hadrat Abu Sufyan, they will meet another point in history. Now, when Hadrat Abu Sufyan later became a Muslim, he passed by Bilal and his people, Suhaib and then Hazrat Salman. Radiallahu anhum. Hazrat Abu Sufyan happened to pass by them. Then Hazrat Bilal also passed a comment. He said, this enemy of Allah, he was saved from the sword. It was just by the grace of Allah that he was saved from the sword of Allah. So there was this companion, Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, had this conversation. He told Hazrat Bilal that, you are talking to our chief like this. So in essence, he is like reminding Bilal the status of Abu Sufyan. You understand? But when Hazrat Abu Bakr passed this comment, he himself realized something in him. He instantly went to the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, reported the matter to him, that this is what happened and this is the comment I passed through. Then the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam understood. He told him that, I hope you did not make Hazrat Bilal angry, displeased about this comment. So instantly, he also went again, himself, Abu Bakr went to Hazrat Bilal to sought for forgiveness. He told him that, hope I didn't make you angry. Three of those free slaves, they told him, no, we don't have anything to be angry for you about. We have already forgiven you. So this is how they do, this is what they did to make sure that these people have the proper place, proper ground to play or to settle, so that they can be part of the society and give out to the society what is in them. So also this point also, I don't know whether it will be relevant or irrelevant. These are free slaves. What about those who came to your state as an immigrant? You should have to be able to open the door for them, to give them a space, instead of relying upon people hanging around here and there. Because Islam gave these people, like the prisoners before now, they were also prisoners also before Islam. Some of them were having captured slaves here and there. All these people, they were gradually released step by step doing this, through these means. And this is how also they were integrated in the society.
Yeah, even in that narration, the Prophet ﷺ will go further to ask, when he asked Abu Bakr, I hope you did not displease Bilal and those people who were around with him. He went further to say that for in their displeasure
is the displeasure of Allah.
The displeasure of Allah.
Yes.
So you can just see the type of people the Prophet ﷺ was talking about. These were freed slaves. And he is saying, if anyone displeases these people, it is like you are displeasing God. So therefore, Abu Bakr was very careful about such things. He would go back to those people and ask them for forgiveness, of course, which they did. They forgave him. And even in just few weeks ago, I remember our Khalifa, Ayadaw Ta'ala bin Nasir al-Aziz, was mentioning this incident when he was talking about Hazrat Abu Bakr Ta'ala, and he said, the Prophet ﷺ did not say, go back and seek forgiveness. He just mentioned, I hope you did not displease them. And then Abu Bakr knew it right there that whether he did or not, he would have to go and seek forgiveness from them. So this was a practice of the Prophet ﷺ, and this as well shows that the stage in which these freed slaves have gone, their ascension in the ladder of spirituality has been very fast. In few years, they went to that extent that when you hurt them, the Prophet ﷺ would say, it's like you are hurting God himself.
And the companions used to call them our leaders. Sayyidina Bilal, they used to call him that the free slave has now become your Sayyid, become your leader. Like it is an extraordinary situation.
Umar ibn al-Khattab would say, sometimes he would refer to Bilal as our Sayyid, as our leader. While he himself was the Khalifa at the time, everyone would be calling him Amirul Mu'mineen, the leader and the commander of the believers and the like. Brother Said Sambaso, we have seen that this was just a trend from the very beginning. We have talked about it. Before the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the very few years, the first few years of his ministry, he received a revelation, about freeing slaves, and that continued until, the time he would pass away, and some of his Sahaba as well will pass away. So, what we want to establish here is, for example, we get the numbers. We know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam have freed 63 slaves, if not more, during his lifetime. But he has, if we would even multiply it, all the slaves that were freed by the Muslims, it was by the command of the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even if you get the total number that were freed in that time, we can simply say it was as a result of the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ. So he was directly or indirectly involved. But as a person himself, we know he released about 63, if not more than that. But how about his other companions, you know, Abu Bakr and others?
Jazakumullah, thank you very much. No, these companions and the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, they have reached to their utmost effort to make sure that they free the slave. Although we know they cannot able to free all at once, but they have tried their utmost level. And if you happen to follow them, automatically you have to follow what they have been doing. So the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, as we already mentioned, he freed, when it comes to number, what we came to realize, or what we came to know, 63 slaves. They were freed by the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But this was not only done by the Holy Prophet, even his companions were following his trend. And in fact, we see some of them, even Hazrat Aisha, that is Mu'minin, that is the wife of our beloved Master Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is recorded she freed 67 slaves. And also Hazrat Abbas, who was also once a captive, if you can reflect back in our previous episode, he also was free and eventually came to freed order. He freed, it is recorded, 70 slaves, and also Hakim bin Hizam radiallahu anhu freed also 100 slaves, as history tells us. Abdullah bin Umar freed also 1,000 slaves, and Abdurrahman bin Auf freed 3,000. Hazrat Usman bin Affan, who freed 20,000 slaves, who happened to be the third caliph after the demise of the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, and also Zulkila al-Himayr freed also 8,000 slaves on one day alone. Total, we have 32,300 slaves were freed by these few companions, and these were not the only people who freed. Many other companions also freed slaves.
Abu Bakr is
exactly, Abu Bakr was not even mentioned here.
That was a constant practice for Abu Bakr.
That was his strength, that he normally go and free slaves. Even we said here, Hazrat Bilal, who happened to be a very great man in the history of Islam, was freed by Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So these people have done a tremendous effort to see that these slaves have been freed, they are given their due right, they are honored, and they feel free in the society. That was the practice of the daily practice of the companions and the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because they are always trying to act upon the commandment of the Holy Quran
and the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yeah, Ustaz Salman Balaji, you want to add anything onto that before we...
Yeah, just a little bit. Like even like you did mention the number, particular number related to Hazrat Aisha, like we have all elaborated, is quite clear. These are not the only number of slaves which were really freed as a result of the teaching of the Islam or the Holy Prophet per se. The number even goes beyond, far beyond that, because in some narration also it says that the Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha will sometimes release 40 slaves per day. So if you minus that 40 slaves from these 60, 67, it will remain 27. So it means only one day freeing, it left with only 27 slaves. So how old was Hazrat Aisha when the call of Islam was being started? And later on, how many years did he live on progressively throughout the history of Islam? So the history must have, this is a certain narration, but it has gone beyond that, understand? Now, with the time of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu himself, before he passed away, there's a narration that when he passed away, there was nothing left under his care, like slaves. There was no possession which was left under him. So he has freed all the slaves entrusted to him. From his side, there was no slave he left under his care. So if it is very interesting, no? Therefore, this teaching was not just an embellishment on a paper, or just we are making our viewers to be happy about our presentation. No, this is this is a fact. If somebody down there, out there, he can still go and search more to enrich himself about this message and information. He will have abundance of sources.
Even if you will put, let's say, for example, all those numbers together, the Prophet ﷺ and his Sahabas at his own time, and the Tabi'in and the Tabi'in, you will see that this will run into millions.
Millions, exactly.
Yes. But you have also made a mention of a very important point, that at the time of the death of the Prophet ﷺ, it is said he did not leave any dirham. In the same way, he did not leave in his possession as well any slave, or male or female. That is also very important, because you see that the Prophet ﷺ has spent his entire life, you know, prior to prophethood and the time and his prophethood, you know, fighting for the cause of slaves. But when he passed away, if there had been even a single slave in his possession, you know, that would have tainted a little bit the practice he have been continually doing. But at his death, there was no slave in his possession. Now, what we will look at is whether these slaves, Ustaz Alman Balajo, when they were freed, you know, we have talked about here that they were not freed only and left empty-handed to go, or their masters. There is a separation between them and their masters forever. They had that connection. And except for those who were not Muslims, they were not going back to those and have connection with them. But anyone who was a Muslim and you freed a slave who has become a Muslim, then you still have that link between the two of you, because you are already brothers in faith. But where these people had a way of progressing in the society, what did some of them become later? The like of Hazrat Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, we know that he had a good name, and a great name, in fact, in the eyes of the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself.
Okay, wonderfully put. These slaves, when they have been freed, they acquire a lot of status, and because they are able to see themselves as part of the society, understand? As such, Hazrat Zaid, who was also once a scribe of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, you know, he was a free slave, you know, not so. So, plus the Hazrat Bilal you have mentioned. Then, but first of all, before coming to that point, let me put this one clear down here. If you want to free these people and you leave them like that, to become what? Just say that Islam says we have to free them. You just free them for granted without anything. So Islam attached still, you have to be this magnetic brotherhood, that they will not be going helter-skelter without any means to sustain themselves, but still they have to be attached to the system, you understand? So these people were treated the same way. They were still attached to the system or to the master they were entrusted to, who is also teaching them, guiding them in business, who later on some of them become a proficient businessmen, and also they have a high understanding of the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some of them, like I mentioned not long ago, Hazrat Zaid will have become now a scribe of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Where did he knew that he was not landed? But as a result of this interaction with the slaves, later on also hence being a free slave, he had been given this office to take charge of even the compilation of the Holy Quran. Later on, he was the leader of those group of people who were responsible for the compilation of the Holy Quran. And then his son also will have become later on an army chief, which was being delegated by the Holy Prophet ﷺ to a certain location to have an encounter with the disbelievers. Later on, his Sahaba, one of his Sahaba, Abu Bakr, understood the wish of the Holy Prophet ﷺ in his command. He even carried out his wishes as the command. So was so much so that when he commanded that Hazrat Osama bin Zaid should lead this army, then few days later, Holy Prophet ﷺ passed away. Some companions will tell him that this one is a young man or is a youth. It is not advisable to make him the leader above all the white-bearded people or the landed or here and there. Abu Bakr told him no. A son of Abu Quhafa cannot dare to cancel the order of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. He will go, he will proceed. And then later on, that's what has actually happened. He went, and then subsequently he will also become some leaders, how do you call it, army general for some other subsequent expedition or battles, so to say. Then this is some landed people. There were a great number of landed people, landed scholars who were free slaves, even the time of the Holy Prophet. Then his Sahabas, then the Tabi'in, then the number continues.
So, Brother Said Samaso, we have few minutes to go, but one may ask, why were these slaves not released just at once? Like if it was a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just to the Sahabas or to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, release all your slaves, all the slaves would have been released. But why were they not released, all of them, just at once?
I think Ustaz Balajo has just said something related to it. Like he said, he could have released them at once. But looking at their stage, some of them have no skill, some of them have no means because they were under control. There is no wealth for them. There was nothing that they have in their possession.
No family member,
exactly.
No relation.
Some of them, they forget even their families. Some of their families have been killed. So there's nothing in their possession. If they happen to be released in the society like that, they may erupt like stealing. Because if you don't have anything to eat, you may end up stealing, or you may end up even going to war to make sure you have something that you can live with. So to avoid those things and to maintain a balance in the society, there was a need for them to be released gradually and to be attached to the companions and to be taught something so that they can able to live it if they are completely released. So in short, that was maybe the wisdom behind it, not to allow the society to be a state of a place where only few people have something, the rest are all deprived.
So it was for the betterment of the slaves themselves.
Exactly.
For them not to be released at once. It was good for them.
Definitely.
Because like you said, you have no family, you have no wealth. Some of them were not married, both male and female.
Exactly.
If you have thousands of those people roaming the streets, you can just use your mind to understand what will happen if those people remain on the streets.
It will be like an earthquake. It
Exactly.
will be like an earthquake in the Arabian Peninsula. Where to go? What
Anything
to do.
can erupt
Anything
in
can
society.
Erupt,
But Ustaz Salman Balaji, before we go, we would say that with all these teachings, the Holy Quran have talked nicely about slaves, about their treatment and the like. The Holy Prophet ﷺ and his Sahabas have done so much for the betterment of the lives of slaves. But why do this slavery still continue? Let's say in particular, for example, in the Muslim countries or the Arab countries, this trend of slavery still continues. Why is that so?
It is very interesting because we have been since the beginning of this program and the subsequent, the previous ones, of course, the teaching of the Holy Prophet with regard to slaves, Sahabas, then later generation, it is very well stated in the Holy Quran, means to adopt, to make sure that slaves are no more visible in the society, you understand? But nowadays, what do we see? Or even afterwards, after the four successors and the later generation up to our present day generation, one or two people, when they are chatting, if it so happens that the other person, they will call him a slave, now, he will not be part of their society. I mean, there will be like a segregation sort of in some community here and there. Why that so? Why is that? The simple answer to it is that Islam is trying to uproot this belief and practices. It went up to a certain point, it halted. It halted for a bit. The Holy Prophet he doesn't have to live forever. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a message to carry, to give to the people. Then his Sahabas also, the Khulafa, they also do the same thing. But later on, it came up to a certain point in time when some subsequent leaders of the Islam, being busy with some certain action, the leadership has somehow broken. By being so that the message of slavery can be progressive and ultimately stop everywhere in the world. But when the leadership ended, now those people who are now without leader, they started to follow the other customs which were happening, like how the slaves were being adopted. The message of Islam has now become distorted. They adopted the former belief because now the light of Islam, which was giving them the booming sort of, it has now depleted or is now faded away. They are now no more able to see the light of the Holy Prophet properly. So they distorted the message. They diverted the message of slavery to another angle, so much so that they become so much miserable in their society that it's very hard nowadays that in a lot of villages or settlements, you have spaces for slaves and you have some spaces for free men. Being called a Muslim, when the Holy Prophet ﷺ, before his death, he didn't have any slave in his possession.
That is practiced not only in the Arab world. You have a majority of the African countries and continent practicing
Exactly.
as well.
I'm talking even specifically talking about the Muslim, those who are adherents of the teaching of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There shouldn't be any trace of slavery in our society, or even the message, although it is being stipulated in the Holy Quran, right? But the practice of it should have ended.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Ustaz Almami Balajo and Brother Said Sambaso. I think the testament of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the point of his death is very important in this aspect.
Exactly.
Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Anas bin Malik, they have related a hadith that kana ammatu wasiyati Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is, they're talking about when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last words which were heard from the blessed tongue of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the point of death was about to overtake him, where as-salatu wa ma malakat aymanukum. Even at the point of death, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was still worried about the state of the Muslims, what will happen to the Muslims when he passed away. And the two things that stick to his mind was, number one, about prayers, and number two, about the slaves, the treatment of the slaves. So this shows that the extent to which the Prophet ﷺ has gone in, having at the back of his mind the treatment of slaves should always be good, even at the point of death. That could not, everything else could go, apart from salat and the good treatment of slaves.
Exactly.
So that is just a powerful testament to show the extent to which the Prophet ﷺ has gone in being a good person and propagating this good teaching about the good treatment of slaves. So this is all time allowed us. Thank you very much, gentlemen and viewers. This is all time allowed us, and today as well we are talking about the teaching of the Holy Quran and the practice of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the treatment of slaves. And we have talked about many topics and subtopics that include as well the practice of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his sahabas, and we also as well try to see the numbers that were released at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or some few people among his sahabas, including himself. They released up to about 32,300 slaves in their own time. But if we put that together with the Sahaba, all of the Sahabas and those who followed them and those who followed them, that is the Tabi'in and the Tabi'in, this number will go into millions. So anyone who wants to read more about the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you can visit our website, that is www.alislam.org. You will have enough material to read about the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and as well you will have enough material to read about the treatment of slaves in Islam. So thank you very much for joining us, and from us MT International Gambia Studios, we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salli ala mubinina, salli ala Muhammadin, salli ala نبينا صل على محمد